week 3 of the live Health New England Where Your Health Matters webinar series. My name is Brian Moody, Director of Health Plan Services at Health New England, and we are so excited to talk to you today about why healthy habits matter as we all try to do everything we can to keep our immune system strong and stay well. Thank you for being here with us. Our mission at Health New England is to improve the health and lives of people in our communities, which is why we are providing you with 6 webinars discussing the various topics you see here on the screen as a way to stay healthy while living in this world of COVID-19. All of the webinars in this series are recorded and can be found on our Health New England YouTube page shortly after each live presentation. You will receive a follow-up email from us with the YouTube link, materials that Sondra will reference today, and a survey link. We will also post the survey link in the chat area toward the end of today's presentation. Your feedback is important to us and helps us to shape future webinars. We thank you in advance for completing it. Now, let's get started by introducing today's presenter. Sondra Schrock Phd is the founder and CEO of Levelhead. Levelhead offers a mindfulness-based program designed for the workplace that is delivered via a digital engagement platform. Sondra holds an MBA from Arizona State University and a doctorate in industrial and organizational psychology. She credits the success of her career journey to embracing the main tenets and practices of mindfulness. Today, she will discuss with us practical, science-based micro lessons to help us successfully establish or maintain essential healthy habits, such as how to create positive behavior change that improves sleep routines, how to limit stress eating, reduce stress, and so much more. Finally, if you have a question you would like answered at the end of the presentation, you can enter the question using the Q&A tab at the bottom of the webinar screen. You are able to ask your question anonymously if you prefer. As this is a presentation that includes mindfulness, we encourage deep listening for all. As such, we ask that we minimize the use of the chat area to help reduce distraction. We hope you enjoy today's webinar. Please help me welcome Saundra Schrock.
Thank you very much, Brian. That was a wonderful introduction, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I'm in beautiful Arizona, and I understand that most of you are, of course, in New England, so I will share what the weather is here today. Well, first of all, I do know one thing that we have a lot in common is living up to our commitment to living healthy, happy habits. As a matter of fact, we all know what we need to do. We know we need to exercise more. We know we need to eat healthily. We know more water and so on and so forth. And we're committed to do so. We understand all the benefits, but often we fail to live up to our goals. So the purpose of today's conversation is to talk to you about a very simple process that may help you close that gap and be able to move closer to achieving the kind of goals that you'd like to achieve. And you know what? This is especially important in times of pandemic. I know I have, and many of the people I know have developed a lot of unwanted habits during this disruption and stress. And we're all trying to focus and get back to the things that we know are good for us. So hopefully you'll find this presentation is a timely one. As Brian mentioned, we're going to explore how mindfulness can help us create, modify, and stop unwanted habits. Now you're all thinking you probably have the association of mindfulness to reducing stress and anxiety. Well, it certainly does that, and is probably one of the best ways to do it. And many people, particularly during the pandemic, have adopted a practice of mindfulness. However, what we're going to do today is to talk about how mindfulness can help us create new habits and modify and then stop unwanted ones. So here's what our agenda is going to look like. And we're going to go through this quickly, but you're going to have plenty of time to ask questions. So I encourage you to put your questions in the question box, as Brian mentioned at the beginning, and we'll have save some time to cover that. We're going to explore what's a habit, how does a habit form, and how habit formation works with the 2 systems of the brain. I'm not going to go into a lot of nerdy science stuff, but I'm going to give you just the basic and high level. We're going to talk about the mindfulness role in this, and then we're going to go through an example with an opportunity for you to get other examples at the close of this. All right, to get us started here, we're going to do, what are your goals? So I'd like to hear from you, and give me a moment, and we are going to see what works for you. Poll 1, you can do multiple choices here if you'd like. Okay, some coming in. We'll give a few seconds here. Thank you for doing this. It's always fun to see what everyone wants to do. I feel like Steve Kornacki that does all the big board on this. Kind of fun, huh? All right, just a couple more seconds and we'll end the poll. Okay, let's end it. And I am going to share results. Ah, look at those top 10. Not surprising, right? Exercise more and lose weight. Well, the fact of the matter is, let me get my stop sharing here. All right, so now let's see what the survey says. As a study that was done in November 2020, a well-known big survey of 531 adults in the United States, we all kind of fall into that pattern. As a matter of fact, it's now about, what, 6 weeks into the new year, and I'm not going to ask the poll question of how many of you are losing interest in your goal, are frustrated that you haven't been able to see it, or just frankly given up. And you're probably, like most of us, thinking the reason why that is I just don't have enough willpower, self-control. If only I had a little more self-control. All right, time to do one more quick poll. This is kind of fun. Let's take a look. Do you believe, let me put it up here for you. Let's take a look at this. Do you believe you lack the necessary willpower to achieve the goal? If you could just hear from yourself, just ask us honestly. We don't know who you are. What do you think? All right, that looks like at the end. Let's see what you all said. Interesting. This is kind of what we've seen across in a lot of the research is that, yep, that's me. But I just can't seem to get traction. I love the people that say, I always go for it. I should have you be doing the presentation. Well, the fact of the matter is, what if I would tell you that if you're using willpower to try to achieve your goals, it's highly unlikely you're going to be able to achieve them. As a matter of fact, we all know we lose our willpower when we're tired, we're stressed, and frankly, we get bored with it. So today, what we're going to do is talk about something that I think has a much higher chance of you achieving your goal, which is habit formation. So let's start with, what is a habit? You know, we always say, oh, I have a habit of doing this. And I don't know about you, but I found a lot of my habits my husband has that I didn't know about that are very annoying. Have you ever noticed we have too much togetherness? But the fact of the matter is that habit is something that we do unconsciously. It happens without any particular knowledge. As a matter of fact, research says that 45% of our everyday behaviors were repeated in the same location. As a matter of fact, other studies have shown that most of us eat at the same time of day, every day, and for lunch, we often have the same thing. Now, that's great if it's a healthy lunch. It happens automatically. We eat the same things. We eat the right amount. But it's not so good when that habit is not what we want to happen. So habits can work for us and they can work against us. So let's talk about the habit loop, which is going to be important for you to see how if you want to change it. So let's start with cues. Now, let's take brushing our teeth. Now, we don't have to think about how to brush our teeth, when to brush our teeth, because it is a deeply ingrained habit. For example, we know in the morning, as part of our getting ready process, we brush our teeth. We may brush our teeth after meals if you're really good. We also know that a cue will happen. It may be time of day or whatever. That will result in a behavior. Means it literally is etched into our, not only is it just a psychological event, it's actually neurological. It actually are pathways that are ingrained. As we have a cue, we do the behavior. It can be a simple routine, as I just talked about, is putting toothpaste on your toothbrush, or it could be a more complex habit like driving to work where we don't have to think about it. We've all had that habit of driving to work and having no memory of actually getting there. It's a habit, we go through the process. And as more of those, that cue behavior is done and is rewarded, like an example, simple example of brushing your teeth, the reinforcement may be a clean teeth. You feel good as part of what you do. Or it can even be a psychological outcome, which is you feel good about yourself. And the more we go around this cycle, environment precipitates, and it could be an environment, another habit, it could be emotions or time of day, any number of those kind of triggers a behavior. If the behavior is rewarded, we continue to repeat it. Very simple process. Now, mindfulness, we're going to talk about how mindfulness can help us use this normal process that we all go through for forming a habit to make it work for us and not have to work so hard to get things done. Mindfulness is an awareness of the present moment. Very simple. It is about attention. Largely, mindfulness is about attention. But it also is in a particular way. You're doing it intentionally with an open heart and mind, or also known as non-judgmentally. So what a lot of people don't realize that mindfulness and mindlessness really refer to systems of the brain. And I'm going to go through this because I think it might help explain how mindfulness will help the habit formation. First of all, the default network and the area of the brain where we like to reside is being mindless. We really like being able to go through our day on automatic pilot. It's comfortable, it's easy. And haven't you ever noticed when something interrupts something that is automatic, we're irritated with it. It makes us cranky because we have to stop. Oh, wake up and think about it. What are we going to have to do different? It's where existing habits reside. The direct network, or the mindfulness, being in the present moment, is needed for us to create new habits and to stop unwanted habits. On the mindless side, also, as we're thinking about other things, we're processing through our experiences and interpretation. Our attention is in the past or the future, and our reactions are automatic. We don't think about it. On the direct network, on the other hand, it's real-time processing. We have all of our senses are on. We are very intentional and purposeful, and we make intentional decisions about what we're doing. So here's another really simple example. When we're in the default network or mindless, our senses are muted. Let me give you an example. Washing dishes. Let's say we're washing dishes or rinsing them to put them in the dishwasher. We normally, for those kind of things, normal day-to-day things, we use our brain time to think about other things, plan our day, or reflect on what happened today, whatever that is. We are done and we don't even know what we've done. It's just, we don't feel anything, we don't see anything. And if when we're in the process of doing that, there's something sharp in there, we may not notice it and have a high chance of cutting ourselves on some sharp knife or a broken glass. On the other hand, when we're mindfully washing our dishes, we notice the temperature of the water, we know how it feels with our hands move on the dishes. We may notice actually that there is, as we're paying attention to all our senses engaged, something that might keep us from cutting our hand. It's a simple example, but it shows you how when the sensors are muted when we're mindless, but they're on when we're mindful. So mindfulness, how it really works is that basically, we can't change what we're not aware of. If we're not aware of our mindless habits as it relates to eating or how we mindlessly engage with others, we can't change it. And when we are engaged, the direct system is engaged, we're much more aware of what's happening. Awareness is important for change. The second part of this is that we can't evaluate the outcomes. For example, if we are eating to soothe ourselves and we see that temporary improvement, we get the reward of feeling a little better, we may not notice the fact that afterwards we don't feel so good about ourselves, or that we have an uncomfortable feeling of eating too much. The third part of this, which is often underrated, is the fact is that we have what called an unforced freedom of choice. We're not using willpower to control our actions. We're actually starting to make decisions that feel good intuitively and that we know are important to self-care. So here are the 4 components. For example, let's start with, you can see what those are. They sound a little complicated, but I don't think you'll find they are. First of all, the foundation of behavior change is goal setting. And goal setting in the simplest form is a mental representation of what we want to occur. It's focusing our intent, it helps focus our attention so their behavior, we can drive either consciously and unconsciously towards that goal. Once we understand what we're doing, it'll help us, we won't be as discouraged in our process, and it'll help minimize frustration and foster what we call long-term intrinsic motivation, so that we're mastering actions as we move along, as opposed to just trying to meet an end goal. And I'll talk about that in a second. The way we started our conversation was around our intention. We have great intention, great motivation. We understand why we want to do, but we just can't seem to get there. A lot of it begins with how we initiate the behaviors. How were they started? Were we pushing ourselves through it as opposed to moving seamlessly towards a goal? We don't know exactly, we say we want to accomplish X, but we're not exactly how we're going to get there. And we don't have a lot of specificity around it. And the fact is that we do veer off track. And then as soon as we veer off track, we say, oh, what the heck? I give up now. It's the on-off thinking. I may as well stop. I got off my diet yesterday, ate some bad things at the Super Bowl. So, come Monday, Tuesday, what the heck? I'll get back following Monday. Of course, that's not you, that's me. First of all, there's 6 characteristics of what goals that will lead to great success. And this has been proven empirically many, many times. First of all, they're aligned to what's truly important to you. And let me give you an example. If we say that we want to lose 10 pounds, and that's not tied to something that's really important other than it's an arbitrary number, or the fact that somebody says we ought to, or we're doing what everybody else does, it's highly unlikely that's going to motivate us in times of trouble. But the fact of the matter is, if we align something to that's really important, like being able to live a healthy, active life as our children grow over time, and to be able to enjoy all the things that they'll go through, or our grandchildren, or whatever stage of life you're in, that will help motivate us when we get a little off track. Second, the question people ask is, should I have a difficult goal or an easy goal? All the research shows, and my experience of working with people, is that difficult goals are far more likely to lead to better results. That's because when we have easy goals, we kind of breeze through them. We don't strive very hard and we don't get very far. But there is a caveat to this. To have difficult goals, but you still have to be able to achieve them. Now you say that might seem a little in conflict, but the fact of the matter is, having a difficult goal that you can break it down into chunking or small bites of things that you can do. So you get that feeling of satisfaction, but you still know where you're going. So you hit these milestones. Now you say, oh, I've heard this before, but my guess is many of us don't do that. And one of the things that we've also found that there's a 33% better chance that you'll achieve your goal if you share it with other people. Not 34, 33, just kidding. But it improves your odds. But the fact of the matter is when you share it with other people, and it just makes sense, doesn't it? They'll encourage you. You've actually have another verbal commitment on what you want to do. And the other thing is to be able to share with how you're doing and get those pats on the backs that we say we don't want, but we really do. Another thing is to have a goal is called an approach goal or an avoidance goal. Very simply, it says an approach goal is giving your brain and giving yourself a direction of what you want to accomplish, not what you don't want to accomplish as an avoidance goal. For example, you might say that I'm not going to eat junk food. Well, instead, make a statement about what you want to eat instead. Anytime you set a goal that gives directionally, and when you're instructing people, they always tell you to give them what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. Performance or mastery goals. Frankly, they're very simple. A performance goal is the one I keep example, I want to lose 10 pounds. I'm not going to ask how many of you have that goal. Pandemic seems to have added about that much to most people. But the fact of the matter is, those are very frustrating when you set those numeric goals and they come with judgment around it. I didn't succeed. As opposed to a mastery goal, which is I'm going to eat nutritious food. I'm going to be more active. And here's how I'm going to do it, which gives you latitude and learning of how you can lead towards whatever your ultimate goals are. So that's the first component. Let's move to the second, which is called limiting beliefs. And we're going to do a poll here in a moment, so get ready. A limiting belief is a fixed mindset about who we are and what we think we can do. It reduces our willingness to try anything because that's not me. It's like whenever, I do a lot of people, I help work with a lot of people on developing their mindfulness practice. They say, oh, I'm not that kind of person. Well, right off the bat, it's not likely they're going to be able to do anything unless they can change that belief. So let's try something here for a moment. I'm going to launch another poll. And take a look at these when I launch this and just react. If it's like you, these three are just representative, not necessarily all inclusive. And you have to scroll down. There are three of them on here, so kind of scroll down. Okay, it looks like most of them are in. Let's share the results. And the fact of the matter is, the reason why I put this up is for you to think about, these aren't necessarily what all of us have, but to think about it. What are those things that might be limiting you from achieving what you want to do? And it's a very simple process to go about it, but it is a process and it takes time to do it. I'm going to give you an example here. The first thing to know is, how do you know it's true? What evidence do you have that it's true? And then can you visualize what your life would be like without it? And I'm going to tell you a very quick story. A health coach who we work with was saying she was working with a very inactive woman for a number of months, trying to get her much more active. She finally got it and she started building on that activity day after day, month after month. She was building and doing things she never thought she could do. And as she was ready to move to the next level of challenge, to do something different, the health coach said to her, I said, now that you're an athlete, what do you want to do next? And she says, athlete? I'm not an athlete. So they started to exploring this. And she started thinking about all the things that she had accomplished. And then she started comparing that to her idea of what an athlete does. And she looked at her coach and she says, you know what? I am an athlete. And of course, what happened? It changed her entire view of what she could accomplish next. And again, I just encourage you to think about this. What are the things that might be limiting you that aren't true and probably have never been true? And then how can you change and move forward? Now, this is a technique that's been empirically proven for decades to work. It's called an if-then planning process. The brain is inherently lazy. As I've told you before, we like it when things just go on automatic pilot. We don't want to have to take a detour when we're driving. We want to go the same way because that's what we do. And the fact is that when we plan for those kind of things, when we're doing behavior change, we actually can use that automatic process to change to a behavior that we want. For example, you transfer the control to the goal and the environment and situational cue instead of having to make a decision. So let's give an example. An if-then plan specifies a future situation and a planned response. If I encounter X, then I will do Y. It anticipates when you're going through the behavior change, you go through what are the things that might get in my way? And I'll go through in a couple examples. If then basically has a critical situation to a goal-directed behavior to get an automatic outcome. For example, if you have a goal of being much more active, to be active and you have an activity, but that activity involves being outside and it rains. In Arizona, it never rains. But on the occasional day it rains, you have to backup plan, then I will use something else. You don't have to think about it because you know how this works. If you think about it, you won't do it. Oh, I'll skip today. It's raining. Triggers. Actually, when you're going through the process, to think about the kind of triggers that happen in your environment. They can be internal triggers, external. Internal trigger might be, I'm stressed and anxious. I do this. Or it could be a physical kind of thing or something in the environment. It should be something that happens regularly that you can figure out and you can alter them. Some things you can't alter. Then you have a planned response. The other thing to keep in mind with actually everything I've said, and I probably should have said it a few more times, is perfect execution is not necessary for success. Doing this a few times or missing once when you have your if-then kind of plan is still good. So here's an example. I want to get more physical activity and I've decided I'm going to take a walk at lunch. Well, you might say, what could get in the way of me doing that? Well, I might forget my walking shoes or I have to work through lunch or once again, it's raining. Can you see I'm obsessed with rain? But the fact of the matter is a planned response might be, well, I might forget my shoes, so I might have a backup plan where they are. If I have to work through lunch, then I'm going to walk after dinner. If it's raining, I'm going to what's the steps. Hopefully you're getting the point on this. Another idea is that just to think about this, if you want to change your behavior, think of times when the environment is changed. I know I just moved into a new house and everything changed. And so it was a wonderful time for me to re-engage some things that I know are good for me. Those are great times. A new job or move or any sort of life transitions are a great way that you can use that disruption to reestablish or establish habits. Another way to do it is to start eating it at different times, turn off media, whatever it is, just change your environment. The other thing is to piggyback on a well-established habit. For me, it was I needed to take the supplement my doctor wanted me to take, and I kept missing it. So I think, what can I do? I have a protein shake in the morning, so what I'll do is I'll pair it with that. I haven't missed it once. Environmental engineering, you may have heard a little bit about this, but if it's easy to get at something that's unhealthy, you're going to do it. And to create any sort of barrier between whatever it is that you don't want to do is another great technique to use. So let's talk about self-monitoring, which is strongly related to a mindfulness practice. I said, when you are aware, back in we talked about the direct network or when you're really present, you're aware of those triggers. You go, ooh, that's a trigger. I'm feeling stress. And when I feel stress, I do X and I don't want to do X. I'm going to do something else. It takes those, puts those unconscious things into a consciousness so you can make a decision. It actually acts as an override process. It also helps you identify things before they occur and be preventative. Oh, this is going to stress me out. I know I need to be prepared for this. So let's go through a quick example. And we've got worksheets we're going to send out after this, so don't need to take notes. But let's just say our goal is I'm going to eat nutritious and flavorful food. And here's what I'm going to do. I just got two things. I'm going to prepare a nutritious lunch 5 days a week. I don't specify what it is. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to substitute fish or meat with fish a couple times a week. So now I've reflected and I go, what might be some beliefs that might be standing in the way? Well, I'm pretty busy and I'm not sure I can do this. And you know what? It's really expensive to buy healthy food. And my family won't eat those healthy foods anyway. So actually to be able to, and again, this is a process that you go through and you basically say, you know what? I am a capable person. I know I am. I know I can figure this out. I'm resourceful and creative. But this doesn't happen just by saying it. And I know I'm making it sound like it's just a magic function. It's not, it's a process. But here's how you can begin that process by using something simple called the if-then planning. So for example, I'll recognize that I'm busy and I might be too busy some days. Then I'm going to have a backup plan. And my backup plan is basically to have a prepared meal. But again, I'm only using eating as one example. This technique you can use for almost anything, whether you're for stress reduction, for physical activity, or any other activity that you'd like to accomplish. For example, if you know that sometimes you get bored with things, what are you going to do? Or the fact that my family doesn't like to eat healthy food. They don't like what I eat. So there is a way that you can do this. It's learning how to anticipate what those things are, having a backup plan, and using that automatic process of your brain to make things happen for the good as opposed to something you don't want to have happen. Self-monitoring. You know what? No one knows ourselves better than ourselves. And we can continue that journey of self-discovery. But again, probably right now, you have a pretty good idea of the things that keep you from achieving your goals if you really allow yourself to reflect on it. One is you might be tempted to give up. And then reflect on, when you're tempted to give up, reflect on why this is really important. What do you want to be like in 10 years, 20 years, whatever that time frame is for you? What do you see your life is? And that's why you need to do these things now. Again, the things that I talk a lot about, self-compassion in some of the webinars I do and the work I do. It is probably one of the things we are so hard on ourselves. Those limiting beliefs, that all of that negative talk that we say to each other, to learn how to pick up on what that is and be able to remind themselves that it's okay. And you know what? We're going to slip up. We're going to get right back at it. The other thing is we're so visually and so tangibly oriented, we forget about the internal satisfaction. So if we don't start having, whatever it is, visible changes in this example, if I don't see changes in the way I'm eating in my body, then I'm going to give up. As opposed to thinking about increased energy level and overall improvement. We're going to, like I said, we're going to send out, Julie is going to send out, our team there is going to send out these examples where you can take a look at it and reflect on it. And again, I just encourage you, I said it once before, perfection is not needed. Behavior change is difficult. It's difficult for all of us. You're not weak-willed. We all have the same problem. So, but taking a deliberate approach, we can move towards the goals that are important to us. So with that, let's see what kind of questions we have. Pull up the questions. Oh, here's a good one. I like this one. Sometimes I use a treat or such as ice cream or chocolate as a reward for staying on track. Is that effective? Well, first of all, I would ask you, do you think it is? And here's how you can do that. First of all, if you're going to treat yourself, if you're on a healthy eat and you want to do something different, I encourage you to savor it. Make sure you understand, eat it slowly, taste the different flavors, the smells, whatever it is, and just enjoy it with no guilt whatsoever, non-judgment, let it go. But then I would reflect on, once you've been done on that enjoyment, how do you feel? Do you feel better? Was it really a treat? Or would have something else been better? That's a great one. Here's another one. Do you think, how do you say we're going to organize in this process? That's a really good question. How do you even get started? And here's what I would recommend. Start with the goal setting process, right? That is the foundation. What do you really want to accomplish? Don't take the superficial. Do some reflection. Whatever it is works for you. One thing for deep thinking for me, and I'm a meditator, but for thinking, I like walking, or whatever it is for you to just reflect on. Pose a question at the beginning of the walk and allow the time to reflect on what's important and what do you want to really accomplish? And if you find that you're scattered or disorganized, start with something very, very small, maybe even smaller than you would think, a small baby step to just prove to yourself that you can get yourself started in getting your life more in order. Let's see, what else have we got? I'm going to do one more. Let's see. Oh, that's awesome. Here's another one. It was my understanding you need to create a habit. You must do something at least 2 to 3 weeks. I will tell you, I've deeply researched this, and there's a range from, that's generally accepted. They say 2 to 3 weeks. But the fact of the matter is, it may take a lot longer. But when you think about how many, I think there was estimated that we perform something like 30,000 different automated functions a day. And if you can jump on one of those things you're already doing to add something else you're already doing, you're doing it that many times, it's not days. It might be an individual practice. So wish I could answer it definitively. It depends. But it could be it could be as few as a few days to get started, or it could be weeks to do something. But try not to focus on the time, but actually the event. That's a great question. Do you recommend a mindfulness training or train the trainer program? Here's what I think, and I've trained thousands of people in mindfulness practice. I will tell you that my experience is that take small bites of it. And if you can do training with a person works for you, have them help you create small bite-sized pieces. The emerging research says that frequency over length of practice gets the same amount of results of long-term meditators, which means being able to do something 2 to 3 minutes a day and doing it every single day will get just as great a results. So I don't think you need a trainer, but you might need a trainer to get you started, or an electronic or digital kind of program. Certainly I'm biased towards those, but you can use all kinds of things. Let's see what else have we got in here. All right, I think we're getting close to time on this. I thank you so much for your kind attention. I think there were a few more in here, but I think we covered some of those. So thank you very much. And I think now I'm going to turn it. I appreciate your attention today. It was fun to have the opportunity to talk with you, and good luck on your goals. You're going to do it. I know you are. All right, Ms. Julie, I think I'm turning it over to you.
Yes. Hi, Sondra. Thank you so much. We do have a few minutes, so if you don't mind, I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions in there that I really thought applied to a lot of us. One of them was, how do you factor in significant disruptors to healthy habits, such as small children, babies, unanticipated work commitments, etc.?
Well, those are great ones. As a matter of fact, I would take the one that happens more often. Let me give you an example. A real live example happened to me today. All right, I have little dogs. I always have to say what they are because they're so cute. King Charles Spaniels. And they are adorable dogs. And they're so attached to me. So if I'm doing something else, they don't like it and they bark at me. So I know that's going to happen. So I have 2 or 3 go-to things that I do. And I'd already tried 2 of them this morning and it didn't work for that disruption. And I had to go to my 3rd one. So I think it would occur, and certainly not comparing children to dogs, but we all have something that are routine. For example, list those things that happen most common in your day. What will you do? And you may have to do one of two of, you do, if this happens, you may have to have 2 or 3 thens occur. And just start with one, the one that happens most often and most critical. Great question.
All right, I'm going to see if there's any quick answer questions. So how do you feel about weigh-ins as a tool for reaching a healthy eating goal?
You know what? I don't know about you all. I don't even like to, and this is a personal preference, right? I don't even like to go to the doctor because they weigh me. And but it works for some people, right? And so some people need that tangible reward of progress, and there's obviously nothing wrong. But if it causes you stress and anxiety, you have to ask yourself why you're doing it. Are there other measures that you can use that will help you achieve your goal?
Great. Is it true that it's my understanding that to create a habit, you have to do something for at least 2 to 3 weeks?
I don't think so. I think we covered that a little bit earlier, but I think the way we would think about that is it depends. But you do need to have enough frequency. It's not going to be 1 or 2 times to do it, and you may do something multiple times a day, which means it won't take you that long to do it.
Great. I'm gonna find one more. So I'm going back and forth between two. So how do you encourage someone to be more mindful versus autopilot? What if they simply don't even realize that they're on autopilot?
Oh, that's a great one. That's a really great one. As a matter of fact, first of all, being on autopilot isn't all bad. Now, this is from a mindfulness practitioner, right? It's not all bad. But I would say to pick periods of time that you want to be really present. For example, a lot of working mothers will tell me first thing in the morning is really hard. I am on autopilot and it is the way I'm going to get things done. And I understand that. However, there might be a portion of that and your children are an afterthought. You're not engaging, you're just moving along and they're like, mommy, I need your attention. Here's what am I going to do today? Find times that you can say, I'm going to listen to that child. It might be 2 to 3 minutes. It may not be very long, but to pick your times for doing that. Or for example, driving to work is a great time to be more present. It's dead time for many of us, or whether we're using mass transportation, it's dead time. Our mind is wandering. Being present and being able to take in the senses and understand what's going on is a wonderful time to start getting into that. So that more and more you become a default of being present. And it's a gradual process because our brain likes being mindless. It likes that wonderful experience of just going through the day like that.
I definitely agree. Well, thank you so much, Sondra. I really appreciate your presentation. It was great. It was so interesting to learn what our brains are doing when we're just doing our daily tasks. So thank you for teaching us how to kind of change that inner dialogue and form those new habits. So this was great.
My pleasure.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julia from Health Management Department at Health New England. So thank you all again for joining us. You will receive a follow-up email from Kathleen Bruno. It's going to have the YouTube link of this presentation as well as past presentations. It'll have the materials that Sondra referenced as well as the survey link. So I had just put the survey link in the chat. If you have a moment right now, while it's on the top of your mind, please take that survey and help us out. And that would be great. We appreciate it. We hope to see you again in 2 weeks on February 24th. A lot of you in the poll said that one of your goals was to exercise more and to lose weight. So we're going to talk about why conscious activity matters, which includes how to incorporate physical activity habits. So it's going to be another good one. So continue to share this link and this series with those that you know, and we hope you have a good rest of your week.
Bye, everybody.